So to wrap up, we want to keep some time for any specific questions. So to wrap up, maximizing value when you're going from pilots and POCs to production. As Chris mentioned, make sure you have a policy, AI policy, as well as is it up to date and is it aligned with industry standards? So even if you have an AI policy, we're happy to review that for you. Make sure it's aligned to your industry and latest policy that you need to align to. And Chris mentioned secure by design, integrated governance. So make sure you have the right foundations before you start. And there's add-on services like more advanced things you can do with Purview, but make sure you have the right foundations. What is your minimum security foundation before you can roll this out to your users and even to customers? So when you're rolling out to customers, it might be different level that you need to operate on. Cost management, which we talked about. So you are changing the model from a licensing to token-based consumption. So this is where your financial operators, like CFOs, will need to play a big part in that. Avoid bill shock. And deploy Copilot chat, which means an internal large language model, internal chat where it's secure, it's in your tenancy. So get your users accustomed to using AI within your enterprise, drive adoption before you give them AI agents to interact with. Because we have seen scenarios where you put agents in front of users where they interact with them using chat, but they don't even know how to do basic chat. They're not using on a day-to-day basis. So those projects will fail. They won't have the right adoption. We touched on training and education. So I think, Chris touched on, security is a continuous thing and learning is also a continuous thing, social learning, set up Teams channels to share good prompts or have a, once a month or session around lunch and learn, things like that. We have that internally in CBS as well. Ongoing education, prepare for ongoing education because the things are always changing. Release management, so when you're rolling out any agent or even chat, anything like that, treat it as a software release management. So you need to have development environments, and then you need to have test environments, you need to have production environments. How do you roll out changes? How do you communicate those changes? What happens if those changes don't work? How do you roll back? That's really important. Deploy internally first. So learn internally, adopt, refine, and then deploy externally last. Pick low risk, simple use cases. Make sure you have a human review process. So that's really important. Okay. So any other questions that you want to ask? So that's the end of the webinar. We got a couple of offers as well. Any specific questions that are coming through?
Not asking about the slides, but I do have a question for you, Raji.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, please.
So when it comes to policy, I see this as one topic that either people have not thought about or people have gone a bit too extreme when it comes to AI policy. What's your view around AI policy and how should customers approach that?
Yeah, good question. So AI policy, you need to have a policy that gives you enough to ground as in enough to cover your bases, like, cover your core security functions, but not too restrictive to reduce your business productivity, right? Policies is, it's difficult to change because, you need to go through councils or, process to go through, change the policy if there's a new thing comes up. This is where you complement that with standards and procedures. So you have a policy aligned with industry standards, but then you have internal standards and procedures. How do you get approval to roll out an agent? Or what is the alternative? You're not supposed to use ChatGPT. What is the alternative? So that's really important, I think, have that balance.
Right. Any other questions from the crowd? And I do have a follow-up question, but I'll see what else the crowd's got to do here. What's the way? Cost management was one that you mentioned. What causes cost management, or what can create cost blowout when it does come to AI projects?
So there's two, if it's users interacting with AI, you are gonna get advanced users that use AI very regularly and very heavily. And it's really difficult to estimate what they're going to be. If you cut and paste a document or you reference a document that's 400 pages, then each page might have 200 to 500 tokens. You multiply, that's a lot of tokens. And then you do that in one, and then if you do that multiple times, so individual users 1 or 2 users could have really high usage, which is very common if you're advanced users. Then you have business processes. So when you have an agent, the context that you write, how the agent should behave is sent every time there's a request in a workflow. So if you don't understand that properly, if you're running those workflows on a repetitive basis, your cost could blow out. And also from a volume point of view. So for example, imagine that you have an agent that reviews customer requests coming through. Suddenly, there's an issue on a website, people are logging more requests coming through. Now your workflows are processing those requests really quickly, and your AI consumption will go up as well. So, but imagine, if you don't have the right guardrails, like, if it reaches 50%, generate an alert, 40%, that kind of thing. If you don't, you're going to get a very expensive bill.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. We do have a question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on using a basic AI agent to help drive AI adoption, such as rolling out a policy agent to get a team member used to how to communicate with AI?
I think that's a great option. So start with a simple one first, and something like a policy agent to even HR policies. Like one of the examples was the other day, I want to find out whether when you're taking leave, if a family member is sick, can you take leave on behalf of family member or something like that? So that kind of thing was a little bit confusing. I had to go and look for AI, our HR policies. That's a great way of having those policies and a simple agent that reviews those policies. The other thing you can do is think about, when you're getting those questions, think about like the top 5 questions you get. And then have pre-built prompts for that. For example, when you have your simple agent rolled out, you could have buttons, how to find out this, like 3 or 4 things that are pre-built prompts. They just can click the button and they don't even have to prompt. So it's a combination of what are the common queries. Somebody clicks a button, gets the answer straight away. And a simple agent is a very, very good way of getting your organization and the users starting their journey with AI.